We are at St George's Camp in the Diocese of Gloucester, and this is where we've started our tabletop tomb conservation project.
It's often hard for parishes to access funding for churchyard structures basically until they collapse and they need emergency repair. So we kind of want to get ahead of that and start to identify where there's need. And because Gloucestershire is so rich in tabletop tombs and has so many listed ones, it seemed logical to focus on this area.
They're works of art. Every single one is made individually, but that means that every single one has its own problems, and so you have to treat each one individually and assess it in its own right and work out what you're going to do with it.
As part of the project, which we were able to create together with colleagues from the National Church, over 150 tabletop tombs will be surveyed, their condition will be assessed.
And finding ways to keep them going for the next at least 200 years.
Quite often asked by the members of the public, where are the bodies? Are they inside? Well, the truth is they are never inside the box above ground.
So a family would commission a monument, they would dig a shaft and put the coffins below, one on top of each other.
They were a major socio-economic statement, and they're usually designed for a whole family.
I think the stories of people who have lived before us are really interesting, and if they've put in so much time and money into creating these kind of elaborate displays of themselves and their families and their history, that we should help them to keep that going.
I'm particularly interested in stone because it's the material which documents the past in a better way than anything else, because it just obviously lasts so long. Outsiders affected obviously more by weathering processes.
Some things might work in a lab, but they will not work here because we cannot control the humidity, whether it's going to rain, the temperature, and all of these things affect some interventions that we would normally do in a laboratory. So it's really interesting to see how Graham works through those.
The methods I use all have to be compatible with surviving outdoors with minimum or no further maintenance. Climate change is actually affecting that as well. Wetter conditions and warmer conditions will mean that the stone will start to act in different ways which it hasn't done previously.
So this is a pedestal tomb, which is also known as a tea caddy, which is when the tomb is taller than it is long. The iron cramps in the corners have rusted and expanded and created gaps which the ivy has then found its way into and grown all inside the tomb. The ivy is holding it together, even though it is what has kind of destroyed it.
This one has a nice elder tree growing out of it, which has, over the years, it's gradually forced the two panels apart.
Unfortunately, this plinth is broken. So what we are looking to do, we're going to advise to take this particular monument all apart, right down to the bottom, and straighten up that plinth and re-level it so it will last longer, and put it all back together with some stainless steel clamps so they don't corrode and cause issues.
So like these ones here, they're subsiding, but other parts of the graveyard, they're actually being lifted by tree roots. So it's being able to understand like the processes that are happening and why. This shape is really particular. They're called, well, you can kind of recognise it as a lyre, like the harp instrument. So these are like classical patterns which are recognisable, but the carvers that have made them have only seen the other sculptors' versions of them. So they've mutated and become this kind of folk baroque stylisation, which is only found here, which is really fascinating.
We've got some lovely palm leaves and an hourglass, and we've also really interestingly got a angel wing and probably a bat wing as well. The wings are very different, probably had some sort of symbolism to the people, which is really interesting actually.
I'm a conservator myself, and one of the aspects about this project I like the most is the fact that we're providing on-site training for young conservation students. It's increasingly hard for young conservators to get fieldwork experience where they're not out of pocket in order to get the experience they need, which is really important for their future careers, and to get them interested in working in churches and the amazing objects that we have in our churches.
Like in here, there's a font from the 11th century, really particular, very wonky pattern, although wonky is not a technical term.
What is the technical term for wonky?
Very good question.
This project was made possible thanks to funding from the National Lottery Heritage Fund, and we are really excited that we've got a total of 5 students from universities across the UK working with us.
So they're all going to be given a stipend that covers their accommodation and their expenses, and that opens it up to a whole body of students that might not otherwise have considered being able to do summer field work.
It is listed as an unidentified tomb. They didn't know who the monument belonged to, but from a book by Figman, I've been able to match some of the lettering on the side of the tomb with an inscription that he's written about. Just up in this corner we can make out the word Christian, and it's actually a name of a lady, and she is buried beneath with her husband John Packer and their son, also named John Packer Jr., and his wife Sarah. So this monument is dedicated to them. So I'm really happy that we've been able to do that.
I really enjoy the social history part of it, especially like reading the inscriptions and figuring out what says there, and that makes it, I suppose, a little bit more personal, and you kind of realise that there is a body underneath most of them. We've had to ask a lot of questions to Graham. He's been very helpful with that though, so that is great, and they chose someone very knowledgeable and very helpful to do that. But at first it was a little daunting, especially not knowing all the terminology.
We're actually all getting a lot out of it, and it's nice to have feedback and be challenged as well. You know, they ask lots of questions, which makes me think about what I'm doing.
The outcomes of the project will be national guidance on the care and maintenance of churchyard structures. We were really keen that would be one of the outputs of the program. There's no existing national guidance on how to maintain them, care for them, what to look out for, and then also information on funding and what resources there are out there to help parishes in caring for these unusual objects.
They are listed monuments, or a lot of them are. Therefore, we have a duty of care to look after them to the best of our ability.